My name is Candace Carnahan, and I'm here to welcome you to Sharing Stories, Changing Lives. Life presents us with opportunities and also challenges that require persistence and resistance to embrace. Our guest today has both in spades. Not only did John survive a deadly crash 30 years ago that claimed the lives of 3 of his best friends and left John with life-threatening burns to over 75% of his body, he has been thriving and inspiring audiences as a motivational speaker for over 20 years now. John has a unique ability to cultivate resilience while placing an emphasis on personal responsibility, which is so important to me. I know the emotional toll it can take to recount devastating details of a day that almost ended your life. And I know that no matter how many years pass, no matter how much momentum the work gains, strength is required to continue to share. Our next guest is changing lives and saving lives with every story he shares, and he shows no signs of slowing down. John Westhaver, my friend, here you are today with me on my very first podcast ever. It's been a long time in the making. And, for the listeners, I just want to say before I turn it over to you, John, we kind of came to be friends during the pandemic, right? So you're out there speaking, I'm out there speaking. You live in British Columbia, I live in Nova Scotia. We're on opposite ends of the country, but we're both from New Brunswick. And we grew up in the same little province out east. And so I, as we said, was feeling pretty relaxed coming into this, because if there's something that us East Coasters can do, it's have a chat.
Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. So welcome. I'm happy to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I love that you're doing this. I love the collaboration, the connection, the work that you do, following your journey, getting to know you, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my story with your audience. I'm excited to be part of what you're up to, and yeah, I just it's a fun experience for me.
So tell us a little bit right now. Where are you sitting right now? You're at home in Victoria?
So currently, I'm actually in my studio in Victoria.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have a studio built. When the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
I actually had to pivot and do a lot of virtual stuff. I didn't do a lot of virtual stuff before, and so I'm coming to you virtually from my studio here in Victoria, BC, which is at the basement of my house. I call it the dungeon because it's cold down here and there's spiders and mice and stuff, but that's okay.
Well, it looks good.
I'll try not to scream.
It doesn't look that scary. Well, John,
Yeah.
I think let's dive right into it. You talk about reckless driving. You talk about the impact that behavior can have on a family, a community, on a person. I'd love for you to just take us back to, I'm from Miramichi, New Brunswick. You came from St. Stephen, small town. What was your life like, before this day that turned it all upside down and almost ended it? Can you paint a picture of that?
Yeah, totally. I can do. I totally did. St. Stephen, small town. Probably at the time it was maybe 7,500 people. There was maybe 4 stoplights,
Right,
and
right.
and, growing up in that little town was a great experience. But a month and a half before my high school graduation, me and 3 of my teen friends, Jimmy, Jason, and Aaron, decided to go on a road trip. Now, Aaron was a year ahead of us in school, so he'd already graduated. Jimmy and Jason and myself, we were actually about to graduate. So we were in the graduation headspace and excited about life, the next chapter, and all that fun stuff. And uh, we ended up going on a road trip to Macadam, which is about 45 minutes away from St. Stephen. And we ended up going to a pool hall there. Like, we were adventurous teenage boys. We had, got out and, just enjoyed life, sort of thing. But on this particular Friday night, me and Jimmy, Jason, and Aaron, we had gone to this pool hall. We'd been drinking. We had a sober driver who was Jimmy. That was our golden rule. No matter what we did, we always had a sober driver.
So
Uh,
I want to just
but
stop
on
you
the
there. I just want to stop you there for
Yeah,
1 minute. I think it's worth noting that back then you already had that 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 knowledge and that commitment to safety to make the choice to ensure you had a designated driver. Because I can tell you what, in Miramichi, I grew up in the country, and that is certainly not, something that my friends and I were as good at as we should have been or could have been. But fortunately,
Yeah,
nothing happened.
yeah, I totally agree. And so for me, it was like I'd been in vehicles when people were drinking,
Hmm.
and so I knew already how scary it was to be in those situations. So for myself, I was that teenager that was like, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm not going to drink and drive. And I never preached it. I just modeled the behavior. I just said, you know what, I'm just not going to drink and drive.
Yeah.
And plus in school we're taught not to drink and drive, so I was the smart rat kid. I would do the smart things. I had older brothers that they would do things that, like, okay, they're going to get in trouble for doing this, so I'll not do that, sort of thing. So I just did whatever they didn't, whatever they did, I did the opposite sometimes.
That's what my little brothers say. I was the oldest and I was the one always getting into trouble. So they behaved themselves.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. As long as as long as I'm doing good, I stay under the radar. Give me the smart rat.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, so we were coming back, and now we were teenage boys,
Yeah.
and we loved to drive fast, and we
Sure.
loved to party, we loved to drink, but we never drank and drove. But we would get in the car, and we had no qualms about telling not telling someone to slow down. Like, we had no issues. Like, sorry, let me go back. We had no issues getting in the car when someone was speeding, because
Hmm.
we love the thrill of speed. Like, we
Hmm.
were those teenage boys, never thinking anything can happen. But the night of the crash, halfway back from this pool hall, we had a sober driver. It was Friday night, a month and a half before high school graduation. Three of us are drunk. The stereo's cranked. Our driver is sober, but he's flying down the highway. He's doing 140 kilometers on a road that's posted for 90. The commotion inside the car. There's four teenage boys. Three of us are drunk. The distraction we were for the driver,
Mm.
the inexperience at which he was driving with. He'd only been driving for a couple of years,
Hmm.
so he wasn't the greatest driver. He actually lost his license a couple times, and the corner up ahead was sharper than he thought. That, with the speed, it was just he ended up losing control of the car,
Hmm.
skidded across the road out of control, rolled several times. Long story short, he was killed. Our driver Jimmy was killed on impact. Jason and Aaron were killed in the car crash, and I sustained burns to 75% of my body, but and a broken arm. But I'd managed to get out. In that moment, when that crash happened, when those boys died, those families were forever changed.
Mm.
Like forever changed. Like, suffering that is still felt today, 30 years later. Like, what I want your listeners to understand is, like, when you lose somebody like that, like a loved one like that, you never get over it.
No.
You cope with it, but you never get over it. It changes your life. And having conversations with the families, Jimmy's little brother, Jason's parents, Jimmy's parents, like you are numb for so long, because it's like a horrible dream that you just can't wake up from.
I love that you are repeating their names, Jimmy, Jason, Aaron. Jimmy, Jason, Aaron. Because yeah, we don't get hurt alone.
Yeah.
And so 30 years later, that void is still there. The thoughts of the grief over what could have been, right? Because
Yeah.
and that will be forever.
We're in a mental health pandemic. Like, we got so many issues going on.
Mm.
And when you lose a loved one like this here,
Hmm.
some people never recover. And, if you look around in our society, there's like people suffering from all kinds of different things. This is just one more of them.
Yeah.
And you never know. if it's going to be you or your kid or your family member that's going to go down that road. They're just not going to really handle it. They don't have the resources, they don't have the support. Maybe they can't deal with the noise. Maybe they can't deal with the thoughts in their head of like how to live without that person, or it's blame, or it's self doubt, or it's survivor guilt, survivor shame, survivor blame. Like all these conversations that come up when you are the only survivor. Now I speak about this to other people. Now saying that, I actually went through all of this myself. Like I had all those dark thoughts. I had that survivor blame. I had that survivor guilt. I had that survivor shame. Like I hated the fact that I survived. I hated the fact that I lost my friends. I felt like I was
Yes, you
being
did.
punished, and my punishment was being a burn victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was being burnt, and I had to go through all this, and so there was so much that I was dealing with. I was lucky though, in the sense that I had a ton of support around me, showed me that I was good, that I survived,
Mm.
and they supported me when I couldn't support myself, or when I was in doubt and when I was struggling. And when I look back, what had me get through the most was like the reason I never gave up, the reason I never, committed suicide or tried to commit suicide or had any of those things is when I looked around me, I had a ton of people supporting me, and I couldn't let those people down. I couldn't let those people down, so I had to fight.
That resonates with me also. I reconnected with an old friend on the weekend, and he said, how do you, we were at my cottage, and he said, how do you just sit here so peacefully? You seem to just be so good, and I said, well, I'm grateful every day that I'm here. My life-changing incident, for the listeners, I lost my leg. 20 It'll be 25 years this year, right? And I could have been killed. And so, like you, John, I too am a survivor. What I say in my work, and I truly believe with all my heart, is when someone gets killed, when someone gets hurt, when something goes wrong, it is never just one thing. It is a number of things, and it's important to dissect that, because it's so easy to say, "Oh, he was driving too fast and he ran off the road." No, we've got young people who are inexperienced. We've got people thinking, "Hey, it won't happen to me." Like there's a number of reasons, and the reason why it's so important for us to always look at that is because if we can identify what went wrong, we have more opportunity to make it right for other people, or for next time. I think, when something goes wrong, it's never just one thing. The person who got injured never thought it was going to happen to them. And I like to think, in the work that you do, when we talk about reckless driving and when I talk about workplace incidents and fatalities and injuries, these are preventable. So I think we could all agree the world is a tough place to live in right now. You could go mad listening to the news and feeling helpless and wondering, what can I do? What can I do? What little old me? How can I help? Right? Um, yeah,
I
you
love that
you
you I
you
love
say
that you
sit in
say
the
that.
driver's seat. You say sit in the driver's seat, right? And that's what we can do. We can say, hey, this is what I have control over today. So I am going to put the phone in the console if I can't keep it out of my hand. I am going to call the person I'm on my way to meet and tell them I might be 10 minutes late, and be happy if I'm only 5, right? Manage expectations. Let's set ourselves up for success. What does that mean, right? To sit in the driver's seat. I mean,
Yeah,
but
I
let's
do a lot of I do a lot of work with youth, and one of the things I do is when I talk to them about this story and mess of road safety, what I drive home to students and anybody in my audiences, all the people that I work with, is I get the audience to understand that the choices that you make every single day, especially the choice that you make when you get in a vehicle, whether it be the driver or the passenger, the choice that you make every single day don't just impact you. It impacts every single person in your life.
mm,
And if you're injured, hurt, or killed, those loved ones, man, they suffer immensely. And when you
mm,
do that, when you give people the time to really kind of look and say, who in your life can you not live without? Who in your life really needs you? Who in your life depends on you? Who in your life can't live without you? Um, and when you give people that the opportunity to really look for themselves, they get connected to those people. And when you drive home this message of road safety, and the choice that we make when getting in a vehicle, they're more open to listen to it versus preaching at people,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want somebody else preaching to us. We don't want someone telling us what to do. We want someone to give us the knowledge and give us the opportunity to look for ourselves, and see, how can I shift my behavior, how can I change my behavior, what can I do differently. And when I introduce myself and I start talking about these choices, I say to the audience, I say, you know nothing that I will ever say or do will ever change what happened that night. I can't say I'm sorry enough. I can't apologize enough. I can't do enough. I can't fix that. Nothing I will ever say or do will ever change that or make up for it. But what I can do is I can have a conversation with my audience that'll make a difference for them and prevent them from going through this. And that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so John, take us back here for a minute. I mean, we both recount very traumatic experiences in our work, and I have to imagine that there was a very tumultuous and painful time after the incident where you were obviously going through surgeries and dealing with the pain and the trauma from the crash. And what was that like for your family?
Yeah, and I love that you go there and that's that question, because for anybody else, like it's easy to get caught up in my story,
Mm-hmm.
like in how it impacted me, but often with times we forget about the family members that had to sit in the sidelines and support those people when they were going through the exact same thing. Maybe not to the scope of severity of my injuries, but they were going through it just as much as I was. Like, one of the things I asked my sister a while ago, a number of years ago, I was asking her about the crash. I said, "Why? Like, what hit you the most? Like, what was the most um, hard? What was the hardest thing that you went through when, like, going through this whole thing?" And she's like, "John, like, you don't get it. Like we almost lost you.
Yeah.
Like, we almost lost you."
Yeah.
And a tear started coming down her eye. And my sister, she doesn't cry. And it's bringing tears to my eyes, like just thinking about the
Yeah.
conversation. And what I got was like how much love my family has for me. No matter how much we yell and scream, we fight with each other, like there was real love.
Yeah. It's so important that we talk about the impact on other people, because it is those other people who really pay a huge price for the choices that we make, also the choices we don't make. John, your injuries, your burn, do you use the word burn victim? Would you say that, or burn survivor? Uh,
Well, I label it as a burn survivor.
burn
It's not,
survivor, yeah, because I don't
this.
like victim either.
I actually do a talk. I do a talk on labels and help people let go of their label,
Yeah.
whatever the trauma is, because what I know about trauma and identifying with trauma, like whatever, like burn victim, car crash victim, rape victim, cancer victim, whatever pretense is that word victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you say I identify as this, you're bringing that trauma with you. And even
Mm-hmm.
when you celebrate, I'm a burn survivor, I'm a cancer survivor, I'm a
Yeah.
rape survivor, I'm a trauma survivor, I'm whatever survivor, you're still bringing that trauma with you. You're still bringing that with you.
Right.
And you can never fully be present and alive in the moment when you carry all that baggage from the past with you. So what I say to people is, let go of that label. You're
Yeah.
no longer surviving. You're
Mm.
no longer, dealing with the impact. You're living in the moment. That's in the past. Let go of that conversation. Let go of that story. What do you want to create for the future? What
Yeah.
what do you want to have happen in your future? Because you are whatever you say you are. You're amazing. You're powerful. You're awesome. What do you want to create for your future, devoid of like this trauma story?
So I had something happen last night, and it made me want to talk to you about this. So when
Yeah,
I mentioned your injuries are more visible than mine. I have a
yeah,
prosthetic leg. I can cover that up. My leg looks real, right? If I wanted to. You have a visible burn on your face. So
yeah.
want to talk about that for a moment because
Sure.
I was at a restaurant at a bar for my softball team, and I got up to use the washroom. There was a stairway with washrooms upstairs and an accessible washroom on the main floor. I used the accessible washroom. And the minute I went in, somebody rattled the door to try to get in. And I thought, oh my gosh, like did I lock it? And then I came out, went off to the right. And you know how when you hear something out of the corner of your ear? I saw a man with a very obvious prosthetic. His was a pipe. He used some choice language and called me a not very nice name. So I ignored it, and then I went and sat down. And then when he got up to do trivia night, he was the host. He said, "Don't be an a-hole. If you don't need an accessible washroom, go upstairs." What? So I went, I said, "I want to talk to the manager." And I said, "What is this?" Not everybody with a fake leg wears a pipe. Good for him if that's what he wants to do, but I shouldn't have to defend myself for choosing to use an accessible washroom, even if I can walk up the stairs. Whose business is it of anyone's? What if I have Crohn's? What if I just have to go real bad, right? So sometimes you wonder, is it more difficult or easier? And I mean, those are simplistic words and ways to put it. If someone can see the thing that happened to you, as opposed to, having to wonder what it is that might make you different, or why you're reacting the way you are, or why you are maybe triggered in a way that most people wouldn't be by a certain thing, And so I would like to just know what, even
Yeah.
even what impact having a visible physical injury has had, even on your daughters. You have two little girls.
I was laughing when you were sharing the story because the East Coast part of me, come out, and I was like, I would have took my prosthetic leg off and beat him with it, you know.
Listen, if I hadn't have been so caught off guard, I would have too.
Kicked them in the tuchus. It's like, oh, there you go. But no, there's a couple different things that like come up for me when you were sharing that. So, number one, that's a trigger for you. There was a trigger in the moment,
Yeah.
and so like what I would, if I were you, what I would do in the next little while, the next little month or so, take a moment and debrief the situation and look for yourself. What in that situation took you out? What is it that you couldn't
Mm.
be with? And so look for yourself, and like when something takes you out, or is a trigger point for you in the trauma, like, and you can't just be with it, you like just like wipes you out completely. That's an opportunity for growth. So there's an opportunity for you to strengthen who you are, and to heal an old wound. And so
Mhm.
you go back to, how do I deal with having visual burns, when in a world of in a very superficial world?
Mhm.
I was thrown into the fire, per se, no pun intended, but like I had to deal with it from day one. And I didn't deal with it. Like I hated the fact that I was burnt. Thought I was ugly, broken, and destroyed. And I have all the self doubts. I thought, who's gonna want to be my friend? Who's gonna want to hang out with me? I thought I'd
Yeah.
be alone forever. I thought I'd never marry again.
Yeah.
And I dealt with all this stuff. But one of the biggest things that I did, or that my father helped me with, is, you know, number one, I had to forgive the driver. And forgiveness wasn't for Jimmy. Forgiveness was for myself.
Yeah.
Like, it was for myself, so I could heal. So I didn't focus that energy on him, on being angry. When I was able to forgive Jimmy for being the driver, for making that driver error, and forgive myself for not speaking up that night, for not putting my seatbelt on last time I got in the car that night, to be drinking that night, to
Mhm.
everything that I did that night. When I was able to forgive myself for those things, and the driver and everyone in the situation, it allowed me to let go of some of the anger.
Mm.
And then the other thing is, like, I had to deal with being looking different. And one of the things I had to deal with is looking different. And my dad, he has no, like, to this day, he has no idea how powerful he was in that moment. But my father had many conversations with me, but one of the conversations that really resonated with me, and it took some time for him to deal with, to kind of to have, is he had me understand that I was going to look like this for life. The doctors didn't do this to me. The nurses didn't do this to me. The physiotherapist didn't do this to me. But anything that they could do to fix and correct the damage was a bonus. And the sooner that I started to accept the way that I looked and my situation, the sooner that I could heal. And when I was able to fully accept where I was and how I looked and my body, my life changed in those moments
Mm.
because I I didn't get upset when a surgery didn't go right or when the doctor said we can't do that. Because I've had many surgeries and I've had over 35 surgeries, and sometimes some of the surgeries didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we all often think like, well, you have a surgery, it's going to work. No, there's surgeries that don't work sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to deal with it. They're doing the best they can with organic matter, your body. Yes, the textbook stuff have, this is what it says in the textbook, do this,
Yeah.
but we're dealing with bodies. They change, they respond differently,
Yeah.
and when I was able to accept the way that I looked, I was able to be with how people saw me, and it shifted for me. And one of my friends was with me. His name is Jody, and one of my best friends. And he was like John. He's like, you know, we're hanging out here, and I'm like, I want to share with you, like, I don't see your scars anymore.
Yeah.
Like I see your scars, but I don't see your scars. I said, Jody, do you know why you don't see my scars? He's like, I don't know why. He's like, because I don't make it an issue.
Yeah.
I let it go. I look you in the eye and I talk with you.
Yeah.
I look you in the eye as I'm talking to you. And I don't make it an issue. I don't make excuses for it. And because I don't make excuses for it and I don't let it control my life, you don't see it either, because I'm still going to be the stupid guy that kicks you out of my car once in a while. I'm going to be the guy that, makes, stupid jokes or whatever it is. I'm the human person, but I'm not going to let how I look change who I am.
For the listeners, I want to point out an overarching theme here, uh, that to me is setting yourself up for success in any regard, and that is taking it inward. You're all about taking responsibility. You're all about taking a closer look at things. Like me, not a blame game person. People are only going to be as comfortable with you as you are with yourself. So if you walk into a room and you're uncomfortable, and you're I'm trying to cover up my knee and hide my leg, that's where you're going to look. But if you're looking people in the eye, and John, when I met you in person 2 months ago, or however long ago that was, it was not long ago, what your friend Jody said is correct. It was minutes, and I didn't see anything other than you. And it was the same for our dear friend Spencer Beach. I want to say why I wanted you to be my first guest and why I am so excited to have you here, because you and I are both having our stories introduced officially to schools in New Brunswick. So you are going to be part of the personal wellness curriculum. You
Yep.
have just come off an 8 school tour. That's why you were out east in April, or sorry, was it April?
Yeah.
Yeah,
March.
March, and you traveled around our fair province of New Brunswick, sharing your story, and now you have a video that is being incorporated into this curriculum.
Yep.
So, what do you want parents, teachers, and young people to know? What is the real impetus behind you sharing your story? Yes, you're providing awareness, but what are some tangible takeaways for your audiences?
The takeaway message here is really resilience, and like learning to turn life's adversities, struggles, challenges into opportunities for growth and learning. And especially for healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
In today's society, I say that, but some of us we're not equipped to deal with these challenges, these obstacles, these life situations. And what happens is it impacts our quality of life.
Yeah.
And when we talk about resiliency and things like that, we learn tools to help us navigate these situations. We increase our quality of life, and when we increase our quality of life, we increase our life, like the joy, the satisfaction, who we get to be in the moment, the difference we make in the world. And, when we do that with students, like our students get to dream again. They get to create the life that they desire.
Mm,
Like they get to like live fully self-expressed and
mm,
have the amazing life that they desire. But here's the problem in my eyes. We have a lot of people out there, especially parents, that are struggling from so many different things, and we're numbing out with different things:
mm-hmm.
drugs, alcohol,
Social media.
binging TV,
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
and we're not dealing with our own personal mental health and well-being, and it's impacting our kids because we're not modeling behavior, we're not teaching our kids to do this. And what's happening is we're having this mental health breakdown when you've got drug addiction on the rise, you've got homelessness on the rise, and you want to point the finger everywhere else.
Right.
I quit drinking 2 years ago because I noticed that I'm a better dad when I'm not drinking. So I
Mm-hmm.
quit drinking 2 years ago. Not because someone told me that I needed to quit drinking, but I saw it for myself. If I want to be a better parent for my children, I need to quit. Because those kids, they deserve to have the best dad that they can possibly have. You
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
And so I quit drinking. And we need to start modeling behavior. So when I'm doing this work in the schools of resiliency, I hope that it gets to the parents, so the parents start to see, hey, my kids are learning this stuff in school. Can I learn some of this stuff too?
Yeah.
Is this stuff transferable to the workplace? Can my company bring you in to speak to us? Because here you are, you're almost a 50-year-old guy, you're talking to kids. Well, what about the adults?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm excited about this project. It's the stepping stone of where my business is going, where my life is going. Like I started 22 years ago in road safety, um, and working on road safety in schools. But where my life is going with the work that I do, it's on the mental health side of things, the resiliency side of things, and helping people deal with the human elements of life that is taking them out, that they feel the need to numb out, to so they can cope with their everyday situation. So I want to help those people see that you don't have to numb out, you don't have to use self medicate to deal with this internal thoughts and trauma in your head. Like, let's start to work through some of this. Let's start to have conversations. Let's start to do the hard work. Let's start to make these difficult choices that will shift our life, and we develop those mental muscles
Yeah.
so that we can live an extraordinary life without the drugs, the alcohol, the numbing out, the whatever it is we're using it as a crutch to
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think we only have a couple minutes left, John, and you just, as you have been the entire conversation, are leading me to what it is I wanted to say anyhow. So how do we choose to not feel like we need all these external things to numb out? I would say we look on the bright side, and so I intend to end all of my talks with what's your half price pedicure, right? So for me, when I lost my leg, at first I felt that it was really unfair that I had to pay full price for half because I only had one foot. And then I had this aha moment where I thought, wait a minute, hold on. Who's going to say no if I ask for a half price pedicure? And I've saved a lot of money over the years, right? But this is a theme of mine. I always try to find my half price pedicure in anything that happens, because if I can focus on the positive, and if I can be grateful and live with the attitude of gratitude, then I can be present and I can make a difference. So in closing, I want to ask you, what is your half price pedicure? What would be the first silver lining, the most bright silver lining that comes to mind to you when you think about the day that changed your life forever and where you are today? I think we're going to see a photo. Your beautiful family. 3 girls. I knew about the twins. Your
Yeah,
beautiful family.
that's my half price pedicure.
That's
That's
your half
the
price pedicure.
the life that I live today. Like I get to, like I share with people all the time. Like I look different. I look like this, and I get to make an extraordinary difference in the world. I live a rock star life. Like I have an extraordinary life,
You're an
and I can make a
extraordinary
powerful
person,
difference.
John.
Yeah, and I get to make a difference in the world. Like I get a second chance where three boys didn't get a second chance.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, and so when we look at the positive things, and like it could always be worse. And
100%. And it can always be
that's what
better. And it can always be better,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, continuous improvement. John,
Yeah.
thank you. Your message needs to be shared. One of the biggest reasons people get hurt, my platform of workplace health and safety, is rushing to work, not paying attention, multitasking. So our messages are really so organically synchronized, and it's just an honor to have you here with me today to kick off this podcast. And I can't wait to see the impact that your program has on the youth here in New Brunswick, and I hopefully soon beyond. Right? Well, first New Brunswick, and then we take on the world. So
Yeah, totally.
thanks, John. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to Sharing Stories, Changing Lives. Please tune in wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're interested in finding out where I'm sharing my story next, visit me at www.candacecarnahan.com.